G'day all. I've crossed the border into New South Wales, visiting Lake Victoria in search of the area's abundant bird life. Behind me is the weir which regulates the flow of water into the Rufus River. This water eventually flows into the River Murray.
Another heavily regulated section of the Murray-Darling River system fed by the Frenchman's Creek, Lake Victoria was increased in size in 1920 to the size it is today. Crossing the South Australian border into the state of New South Wales, this is not my first visit to this area. In 2023, after a year of good rainfall, the lake was full of water, lapping at the banks of this expanded lake. Water as far as the eye could see. Now here in 2025, and after a year of drought, it's a dry and barren oasis with the landscape giving us a perspective of what water levels once were prior to man's intervention. One thing I found on my last trip which left me intrigued was these cormorants swirling around in the turbulent waters of the loch. It left me thinking, are they fishing or just in there for fun? It's after the water has flowed out of the loch where the main concentration of bird life occurs, all trying to get their fair share of the spoils flowing downriver. With the two main colour variations being black and white, or white and black, the bird life is as diverse as it is abundant. I'm sure there are some emus out there somewhere, however the biggest bird found on this trip was the Australian pelican. With short legs and large webbed feet, the pelican appears uncomfortable and at times clumsy on land, but it's those legs which turn these large birds into masters at swimming, able to navigate rough churning waters with ease. I guess having all four toes joined by webbing helps paddle, propel, turn and when needed hover in one spot. Having all four toes joined by webbing is called toty palmate, with this adaptation only seen in a few bird species worldwide. Normally it's only 3 of the 4 toes joined together. Surrounded by a large yellow eye-ring, they have keen eyesight, allowing them to see prey from some distance away. But even with this keen eyesight, mistakes are made, and not every plunge of their long pointed bill comes up with a fish. Sometimes it's empty, other times in the commotion of the feeding frenzy a strike comes up with another unlucky participant, like this unlucky cormorant, grabbed after being seen in the corner of the pelican's eye, but quickly let go a little shaken, but none the worse, let go to go on with catching its own prey. Australian pelicans have the longest bill of any living bird. The top section of the bill has a hook at one end, while the lower section contains the pouch. This pouch is a sensitive, flexible membrane used to scoop up any prey before swallowing whole. With many fishing techniques, these birds will either pierce the water once the prey has been spotted, driving their bills open beneath the surface, or in the case of these pelicans, sit with their bills open, waiting for the prey to swim into the set trap. Beneath the feet of this pied cormorant, it's quite mesmerising watching the pelicans attempting to entice an easy meal. All while other cormorants work hard, diving deep beneath the wash of the churning water, all while trying to avoid the distracted glare of the hungry pelicans. Given the cormorant's food source is entirely underwater, and at times tiny in comparison to the size of the bird, you would think their eyesight would be extremely proficient underwater. However, the eyesight of the cormorant is poor and comparable to humans underwater, blurry until around a metre in front of itself. Which is amazing to think when you look at the size of the prey they have been catching. Like this tiny shrimp, and this very small fish. But there are some good-sized catches to be had, just like this prized fish, which quickly disappears down the throat of this cormorant. Two species of cormorants can be seen congregating together around these waters. The pied cormorant, almost split down the middle with its black and white colouring, and the great cormorants. These are almost entirely black. These cormorants are the largest of Australia's cormorant species. It's a regular sight, and a necessary behaviour of the cormorant to sit with wings out, as it aids the drying process of their feathers. Cormorant feathers lack the waterproofing of other aquatic birds. This lack of waterproofing prevents air bubbles from being trapped under the feathers, enabling them to dive deeper. On the rocky banks of the river are a few notable scavengers of the bird world, and none more notable than the silver gull. This one attracted by something between the rocks of the man-made structure. But whatever it isn't just attracting the silver gulls. These rather large carp have picked up the scent being washed down into the water, feverishly trying to get up as close as possible. Carp are a pest species and a major problem in Australia's freshwater systems. They erode banks, stir up native vegetation, eat anything they can get their mouth around, and dirtying up the waterways. They have spread far and wide, and not being a suitable table fish, rarely taken by fishermen. In Australia, it's illegal to put carp back into the water alive, so they are mainly left on the banks to rot away, or taken by animals. And scavenging around for any leftover pieces are these impressive whistling kites, aptly named for their high-pitched whistle. These members of the Australian raptor family are common around waterways and are often seen gliding above the treetops. Keeping up with the black and white and scavenging theme are the Australian white ibis. These birds have the reputation of being one of, if not the biggest scavengers in Australia, big enough to be known by their unfortunate name, the bin chicken. But nevertheless, an impressive bird with their black heads and downward-facing curved bill. In the background of the white ibis is the Australian darter. Its long, slender, snake-like neck a striking feature, leading to its dagger-like bill, which is used to spear its prey underwater. Australian crows and ravens are difficult to distinguish between each other, and with 5 species of ravens and crows in Australia, all with similar characteristics, I'm not even going to try and guess this species. But it is black, and the next bird is white. The eastern great egret, resting in all its glory in the shallows of the opposite bank. Making the odd strike against prey beneath the water. Just amazing how white these birds actually are. Pelicans not only hunt on their own, but also in groups, all working together to herd fish into the shallows before piercing the surface to scoop them up. It's mesmerising to watch these birds working in unison, all for the same cause of survival. The Australian pelican may not be as comfortable in the sky as they are in the water. However, it's amazing how this large, heavy bird can glide so effortlessly through the air. Being pushed along by the force of the weir, the slow-moving waters of the Rufus River will eventually flow into Australia's largest river, the iconic Murray River. Adding to the enormous amount of aquatic birds already seen are the grey teals, one of Australia's more common species of dabbling ducks. Camouflaged well against the backdrop of the shimmering, murky waters. The trees in the area also sustain a large number of bird species coming to forage and seek shelter. After scavenging a full belly, the whistling kite has retreated to the safety of the tall, dense river red gums to rest. As a scavenger, it has relatively small talons. However, with a large hook on the end of its beak, it is used to tear off flesh from a carcass. A black-faced cuckoo shrike, a widespread bird found across the entire Australian continent. However, given the wide range, the black-faced cuckoo shrike can be a little inconspicuous at times. White-plumed honeyeaters are very common in this area and are very social, often found in small groups and seen playfully chasing each other from tree to tree. Another of the honeyeater species to inhabit this area is the spiny-cheeked honeyeater. Possibly one of my most frequently sighted birds when I'm in the bush, popping in and out of dense foliage, as it searches for a diet of nectar and insects. When filming, sometimes you'll win some, and sometimes you lose some, such in the case when I spotted this striking Australian ringneck. My filming was all over the place like a drunken sailor. However, if I pause the film in the right frame, it will give you a clear indication of the bird's beauty as it makes its way down to check out an old hollow in the gum tree. High in the canopy of the river red gums are the red-rumped parrots, aptly named for the red patch on their lower back. As with most Australian parrot species, the male bird is more vibrantly coloured, while the female is more dull in appearance. These parrots are in search of the flowering buds of the surrounding eucalyptus trees. So as I leave the Lake Victoria region, just over the New South Wales border, heading back to my home state of South Australia, I hope you enjoyed this look into some of the beautiful bird life. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and subscribe if you like to see more nature-based content. Thanks for watching.